Welcome back to Jam and Kenny. Today we have a little bit of a new thing. I think we found, I guess I would say, a type of video that we actually kind of enjoy doing, and it seems the kind of video that we've done more of recently. And so, welcome to a new segment on Jam and Kenny called Game Breaking News. Today we're gonna come to you with something of a little bit of a, a late start, but um, it looks like Microsoft has finally confirmed all four games that they said that they would be bringing to PlayStation and the Switch. Now this broke about a week ago. Today being the 21st, as of recording this, it was released I think on the 15th. They had announced that they would be bringing uh, four of their Xbox and I guess PC exclusives to PlayStation and Nintendo. Uh, have you heard about this yet?
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, it broke like a week ago. If anything, this kind of gives us a little bit of time to see what kind of information comes out after that. Usually little things pop up that kind of clarify the initial news break. And so yeah, that was something. I think initially people were talking about some of the more recent games that they have, or at least some games that haven't come out yet being possible options for this, and then they kind of recently have come out and said no, the clarified things, and said that there's, I think it's four, I want to say that four games, some of their exclusives that they're actually going to make available on PlayStation, on Nintendo, on the Switch. And I mean, I think it's a pretty big deal. But as far as what are the four games that they're talking about here?
The four exclusives coming are
I know Sea of Thieves
it
is
was
probably like
Sea
the
of
big one, right?
Thieves. That one's coming April 30th to PlayStation. Grounded, which I believe is going to be both PlayStation and Switch. Then we have Hi-Fi Rush, which I think released within the last year as well, and that one's just going to be PlayStation 5. And Pentiment. Uh, it's a game by Obsidian, which is coming to both the Switch and the PS5.
Be honest with you, I Sea of Thieves was the only one that I really was aware of before. I had to look into Hi, and actually Hi-Fi looks like a lot of fun. I'm not too
Hi-Fi
sure
is dope.
about what is it. Is it Pentiment?
Yeah,
Pentiment.
and that
Yeah,
one's actually
I don't know.
releasing February 22nd, so that's going to be the first one to come out, and that's going to
Yeah,
be on both.
I'm not too sure if that's my style, but it's cool that they're coming out with these exclusives. I mean, obviously, it's not the big ones, right? You're talking like obviously Halo, Gears of War, maybe Forza, those kinds of games that are some of their like more staple exclusives. And is it a sign of things to come? Eventually, leading down the pathway to where this becomes something that they just do, and they don't even have any exclusives. I mean, it just depends on what their long term plans are for the console and what they're going to be doing with that, and where the company is going in general. But
Yeah,
we won't know
so
until they actually
I don't know, dude. So I thought
follow
about
through.
a few things for this, and my first thought is they own like every fucking game studio now is under them almost, except whatever um, Sony was able to grab before that, but it it honestly feels that this has been coming for a long time, and I wanted to touch on this one point here, that their CEO Satya Nadella had mentioned that he does not like the realm of exclusives in the gaming scene, and that could he get rid of it, he would. Um, and then he threw a little bit of shade at Sony, saying like, "Oh, Sony, the reason we have exclusives is because of Sony and things like that." He said, "If not, we wouldn't have to worry about it. We would just put games out and everything would be chill." Uh,
Yeah, is that what he? I was gonna say. I wonder what he like exactly means by that. If he doesn't like the process of having to only restrict releasing games to this one console,
Yeah,
or
he just thinks that like that culture of like, oh, this game's only going to release here, it's only going to be available here, and it doesn't matter what console you have, so now you have to buy this one if you want to play it. That he thinks that it's very toxic uh to the game community, and it sort of has in my personal opinion from reading what he said, is it I think it might have set back like the advancements of consoles. You know what I mean? Sort of like how Nvidia just dominating the video card scene on PCs has sort of really slowed down the development of new ideas and stuff like that in the space.
yeah, I mean, it, I get that, but at the same time, when you know the opposite side of the coin is you know what would the people from Sony say in regards to their exclusive, which are obviously doing way better, and has been quite the asset for them, especially like are people entire. I still to this day I'm not exactly sure if the exclusives are one of the main reasons why people would go with one or the other. Um,
It
I honestly, because
seems,
at one point was like the 360 was bigger than the PlayStation, wasn't it? At that time.
I think the 360 did better. And I think the reason was because of um games like Halo and a few other that came around that time that you know were out substantially before like PlayStation exclusives like Uncharted and stuff like that, which I think really helped Microsoft like step into the scene. Which I mean, it wasn't their studio because Bungie before they bought Bungie was making Halo, and just due to the fact that it was exclusive to them, I mean, it was without a doubt why it happened.
Yeah, I mean, you know that one, yeah, that probably was a big factor. I always just thought it was because I remember it came out first, and everybody was like, "Well, we want the newest console," and it was a significantly bigger jump in terms of like the 360 from the Xbox to the 360 was like a big jump, right? And then was it Xbox to 360? I can't even remember. It was so long ago. But
Yeah, that was a big jump, not just in like graphical fidelity, but like how big games actually were, how long the gameplay was.
yeah, and just the whole system, the system in general, like the you know the way that consoles to function now. Obviously, they've evolved a little bit, but there hasn't been that big a jump like there was from from the Xbox to the 360. I think word went around very quickly, and then that coupled with the fact that the Xbox was, I mean, Halo was one of the hottest games at the time, and if not the biggest game, and those things together just kind of made it be like I remember more people had the Xbox than had the PlayStation. Like at a certain point, it was like, well, my friends have this one because the initial gamers who were like jumping on it because I think the PlayStation did come out like a decent amount of time after the Xbox did,
Yeah.
and it became like a thing where everybody already had the Xbox 360, and so you weren't going to get the PlayStation because your friends have the Xbox 360, and they're literally you're at school and they're all talking about playing the game that they're playing, and you're sitting out, and you finally your Christmas time comes and your parents are like, well, which one you would you want if you did? Of course you're going with the 360, the ones that your friends have.
I was a Sony boy myself. I liked a lot of their. I really wasn't into Halo until I think ODST. We were talking about this. I wasn't into Halo until ODST came out, so I didn't really buy it till then. I think that was the 360, and at that point, I was like starting to come back to PC gaming, just really moving away because the PS3 that I had, I bought like 2 years after launch, and it was used. The Xbox 360 also used that I bought after launch, and I really only played with you guys on them, and then I just went back to PC. But I want to go back a little and touch on a point that you said that there was the whole advancement of like what the console really was between Xbox Xbox and Xbox 360, where you had like your personalized character, where they started following the Mii's from Nintendo and all that shit. And as cool, as big as that jump was, I feel that we've since then, when exclusives became like a big thing and you needed something to differentiate yourself from the from your competition, like I think that's where what the consoles actually were. And like you had mentioned, we had talked earlier, where like they sort of became media centers and then they got rid of that. I think the consoles right now are suffering the most because of exclusives, because they know you're gonna buy us because of this game. You know, you're gonna buy us because the other guy doesn't have the game that you want. In reality, is what it is. Um,
If
you
you're
know,
Sony.
yeah, or Microsoft. You know, you're gonna go one of two ways, or ultimately, what we've seen is you're gonna go both ways. And I think what that's done is take away from what the consoles actually are. And even what Microsoft tried to do with which one was it? The Xbox One, where they tried to make it like a whole media center, and it just didn't
Hmm.
really work. And I can see why it didn't work, because people weren't ready for it. You know, it's like the VR headsets. It's not a everyday thing, because
Yeah.
most people don't even have it for a small thing. So I think right now that this might actually help increase the the competition within what consoles are.
I mean, maybe. It always felt like it always, at least from my perspective, especially at that time, it was like Sony. Sony seems like just zoned in on the video games, which is what this is. It's a video game
Yeah, it
console,
is.
and for that simple fact, if I want this, want this, and I'm the kid, and I'm trying to decide which one I want. The whole home, uh, you know, uh, what
Entertainment
would you
system.
call it? Yeah, like a home entertainment system. That whole what they did with the Xbox One and all that. Like it's cool if maybe if you're a parent and you're deciding, and then if you're older, maybe you'd go for with that because you're like, oh, I could do a lot. I technically do a lot more with this. In other words, you have more bang for your buck with the Xbox, and graphically and things like that, maybe a little bit better. But when you're talking about video games, and if you're a parent and your kid's telling you, but I want the PlayStation, you're gonna get the PlayStation.
Yeah,
Like
to get
it's
him to
just
shut
it's
up.
yeah. I mean,
Because
it's
you don't
like
want to
if,
deal with having to put up with the fucking kid screaming at you. My
yeah. I
friends are
mean, but
playing fucking Uncharted and I'm not.
the kid's gonna be the one that's playing it. So for the
Yeah.
most, nowadays our generation, that's not the case.
No, I
You
think
got
I
adults
think
playing all the time.
I think that's why I sort of fell back to PC, was because it did everything. You know, it's and not only does it do everything, I can do everything at the same time. Just lose focus and just get lost in the world, dude. I'm playing League of Legends while I'm watching Bones on Hulu, bro. Like, I don't know, but again, I think that you're right in that, is that you know maybe the console isn't necessarily for adults in the same way that it is for kids. You
Yeah,
know,
I wonder if Fortnite was an Xbox exclusive, would this, what would his take be on exclusives then? You know what I mean? First of all, do you think that if a game like a Fortnite with as big as it got was only on Xbox, do you think that that gap would be bridged a little bit in between the two systems?
oh hell yeah. I mean,
100%.
I guess I think they try to do that, and I like that you thought of that. I think they try to do that with Fortnite, with Halo Infinite, and they just really missed the mark because of all the issues they had at the
Yeah.
beginning.
Halo
But
Infinite is not really like something that a bunch of kids would play. Like
yeah,
Fortnite's got the attention of
but
how
the
old's
thing
your
is,
nephew that
it's not an exclusive though. Fortnite's not exclusive to anything
no
because they
no
knew that being exclusive was not
not
where
going to
the
work
money
for
was
them.
at right now.
At the same rate, it's like, well, why can actual Sony be playing these games? Yeah, they have access to certain IPs because they have the movies, and then you got these Spider-Man games and all this coming out. But it's why can they make these games and work with these certain studios that will only are basically exclusive to them, and they knock it out the ballpark. You know what I mean? So it's just is it a development thing? I seriously wonder what is it. Someone behind the scenes that
No,
is like the
no,
mastermind of this is
it
just like, I know, like a Kevin Feige or Sony or something like that.
no,
That's just really that knows his stuff
I
or her
think
stuff.
so. Sony is just well connected. I'll give you that. Sony is well connected in the video game scene because they were doing video games before Microsoft was. You know, and rightly earned, dude. They've put in the time, they've put in the effort, so they're ahead. Xbox in reality is the new guy to the scene. But here's the other thing: everybody's all excited about this. I think this is the last point I want to talk on. Sony did it first. Sony let go of their
Yeah, I
exclusives first.
mean,
Sony knew what was coming, and Sony knew this was going to happen. Sony tested the waters with releasing their exclusives to PC. I mean, we had games like what? The Last of Us Part 1, right? I'm sure they're going to keep the Part 2 exclusive for a little longer. Final Fantasy VII Remake, which was exclusive, and I think this was more like a Capcom decision, but I'm sure there was contracts drawn up to at least keep it a timed exclusive on PlayStation. You got Spider-Man and a Miles Morales that came to PC.
I think they realized, like, people who are on PC they're not gonna make the switch because this game is only on the PlayStation.
Yeah,
they're just not gonna do that.
And I think Sony finally saw that, and I think this was what Microsoft was waiting for, because I can almost guarantee you Microsoft would make more money having the PC as its console in the fight, as opposed to Sony's. I think Microsoft might be looking to kill their console and focus just on PC and studio releases. Because if they
they already have a foothold in that whole, it's Microsoft.
Yeah. So it's like, okay,
do what you know.
Let's cut out the fucking middleman. Let's cut out this thing that we're not great at, we're not dominating in, and say like, hey, you keep the console space, we'll keep the PC space, and we just share games. I make games for you, you make games for me. And there's no such thing as the consoles war anymore, because Nintendo's not even in the console war. Nintendo's living its own life out in the sea, not giving two rats asses about PCs or consoles, because they have their own IPs that they're just gonna be able to survive off forever.
Yeah. Well, it's also their marketing strategy is like the way that they gear everything is towards kids.
Yeah.
So it's like, even though it's not just kids that play the Switch, obviously, but the majority of all their stuff is geared towards kid gamers.
It is.
And you have Sony and Microsoft who are more like each other in the sense that they're coming out with more mature IP. But in terms of, and that's why I don't know if it's something where they're just like, well, we can't compete with Nintendo. Nintendo's always going to be Nintendo. Like I said, it's going to be interesting to see where they go with this. I just hope that it doesn't push the gaming industry in a negative direction.
That's always the afterthought. And the way things have been going recently, I mean, I don't blame you for thinking that. It hadn't occurred to me, but it's like, it could go bad. But we'll probably find out in a couple years, maybe 1 or 2 console generations from now. We'll see how things have been going, and we'll check it out. But one more time, that list for you is Pentiment, which should be releasing February 22nd, which I think is the day that this episode released. So if you want to pick that up on the Switch or the PS5, go ahead. Hi-Fi Rush, March 9th. Grounded, April 16th. And Sea of Thieves, April 30th. So if you got any friends who play those and you just don't have an Xbox and you want to pick them up so you can finally play with them, take a look. They might be on sale too. Might not be full price. But thank you guys so much for joining us today. It's a little bit of news for you guys. You guys have a good day, and thank you for watching. Peace.